My niece mocked me. You're just our ATM, so I seized the house and the car they never paid for. The first of the month always arrived with a familiar metallic taste in my mouth, like an old penny held too long under the tongue. It was a taste I associated with obligation, a silent, heavy weight that settled in my chest long before my eyes even opened to the gray dawn filtering through my apartment window. I'm Sarah, 38, and for more than a decade, my life had orbited around a financial black hole disguised as my family. I sat at my desk, the glow of the monitor casting long shadows in the quiet room. My apartment was modest, a one-bedroom sanctuary I'd furnished with care, each piece chosen for its clean lines and quiet comfort. It was a stark contrast to the sprawling suburban house my brother James lived in, a house my success had essentially built and maintained. With a few clicks, the ritual began. My finger hovered over the confirm transfer button. $3,500. Labeled James, mortgage/bills. It was more than my own rent. The click echoed in the silence, a sound as routine as my morning coffee, yet it never failed to send a small, bitter tremor through me. Just as the confirmation screen popped up, my phone buzzed. A text from Trina, James's wife. It wasn't a hello or how are you. It was a link to a ridiculously expensive designer handbag. The message underneath read, OMG Sarah, look, Emma would die for this for her 16th. It's the bag. Love, love. My stomach clenched. Emma, my niece, was turning 16 in 3 weeks, and the sweet 16 was already snowballing into an event rivaling a small wedding, all on my dime. It started small, as these things always do. A temporary loan when James lost his sales job, again, 10 years ago. Then it was help with a down payment for a fresh start in a better school district. I remembered the smell of mildew in my own tiny studio apartment back then, the irony thick in the air as I wrote the check. That fresh start had morphed into a permanent subsidy. Their mortgage, the payments on Trina's gleaming white SUV, Emma's private school fees, their yearly much-needed vacations, and an endless stream of emergencies that always seemed to coincide with my bonus checks. I'm a graphic designer. I'm good at what I do, and I've worked tirelessly to build a successful freelance career. But I wasn't rich in the way they seemed to imagine. I was just disciplined, frugal, and perhaps pathologically responsible. There was a promise, whispered to my dying father, that I'd always look out for James, my older, charming, but perpetually adrift brother. And there was a deeper, more insidious need, a yearning for their approval, for the feeling of belonging in a family where I often felt like an outlier, the serious one, the workaholic. My value, I had subconsciously learned, was tied directly to my bank account. My mother, Eleanor, did little to discourage this dynamic. She thrived on the illusion of a successful, cohesive family. Whenever I'd gently hint at the strain, she'd wave it away with a sigh. Oh, Sarah, don't be difficult. James has had it tough. You're doing so well, it's only right to help. Family helps family. Her version of family seemed to be a one-way street, paved with my invoices. The phone buzzed again. This time it was James. Hey, sis. Got a sec? His voice was all charm, the kind that used to make me smile before I learned to hear the calculation beneath it. Listen, about the car. The old one's on its last legs. Trina's worried sick about Emma driving it. We found a great deal on a nearly new SUV. Super safe, all the bells and whistles. The thing is, the bank's being a bit sticky. If you could just co-sign, just to get it through, I swear I'll refinance and get your name off in 6 months tops. My big project is about to land. I can feel it. His big project was a recurring mirage, always shimmering on the horizon, never materializing. I hesitated. Co-signing. That was a line I hadn't wanted to cross. James, I don't know. Please, Sarah. His voice dropped, laced with manufactured concern. It's for Emma's safety. You wouldn't want anything to happen, would you? Think how awful you'd feel. Trina chimed in on speakerphone. James promises Sarah 6 months. This time it's different. Just think of Emma driving safely. The emotional blackmail was thick, suffocating. Against every screaming instinct, I heard myself agreeing. The Sweet 16 planning continued. It was a whirlwind of Trina's expensive tastes, a country club venue, a specific caterer known for their Instagrammable canapes, a live band. Each decision came with a price tag, and each price tag landed in my inbox. I tried, once, to suggest a slightly more modest approach. Maybe a really nice party at the house, Trina? We could still make it special. The line went cold. At the house. Sarah, this is her 16th. Don't you want her to have a day she'll remember forever? Don't you want her friends to see, well, that she's loved? The implication hung heavy. My love was measured in dollars. My mother called later. Sarah, dear, Trina's a bit upset. Let's not cause waves, shall we? It's an important milestone. Just be supportive. So I was supportive. I paid for the venue. I paid for the caterer. I paid for the invitations. And yes, I ordered the ridiculously expensive designer handbag, my cursor hovering over the buy now button with a feeling of profound weariness. That evening, I met my best friend, Chloe, for dinner. She'd been my rock since college, the one person who saw through the family facade. I recounted the car co-signing and the party budget. Her expression hardened. Sarah, this is insane. You're not helping. You're enabling a lifestyle they can't afford and refuse to earn. They're leeches, and you're letting them drain you dry. When is it enough? It's family, Chloe. I mumbled, the words sounding hollow even to my own ears. Is it? She countered, her eyes searching mine. Or is it a hostage situation where you're both the hostage and the ransom? What happens when James's big project doesn't pay off, like all the others? When will you be your priority? I had no answer, but her words followed me home, echoing in the two quiet rooms of my apartment, planting a seed of doubt that felt dangerously close to rebellion. I pushed it down, telling myself it was just a few more weeks. Just get through the party. Then, maybe things would change. But deep down, I knew they wouldn't. Not unless I changed them. And the thought of that, the confrontation, the fallout, terrified me more than the slow drain on my bank account. Or so I thought. The night of the party arrived draped in a cloying humidity, the air thick with the scent of expensive perfume and freshly cut grass. Pulling up to the country club, I had a pause. Fairy lights twinkled in the manicured trees. Music throbbed from an unseen source, and valets in crisp uniforms hurried to open doors of cars far newer than my own reliable sedan. It looked less like a teenager's birthday and more like a society gala. My stomach churned. I had paid for all of this, yet I felt like an interloper. Inside, James and Trina greeted me with their kisses and effusive thanks, their eyes already scanning the room for more important guests. Sarah, you made it. Doesn't everything look wonderful? Emma's just thrilled. Trina gushed before being whisked away by a woman dripping in diamonds. James gave me a quick, distracted hug. Thanks, sis. You really came through. Then he was gone too, leaving me standing alone in the glittering chaos. I found Emma holding court near the towering, multi-tiered cake. She was a vision in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly utilities, surrounded by a gaggle of equally polished friends. And there it was, dangling from her arm, the designer purse. She was preening, turning it just so, soaking in their oohs and ahs. My name, the name of the person who had made this moment possible, wasn't mentioned. I was just a shadow, a funding source, invisible. I retreated to a corner with a glass of sparkling water, watching the spectacle unfold. James was telling a story, his voice booming, gestures expansive, painting himself as the doting father who moved mountains for his princess. Trina dabbed at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, playing the proud, emotional mother. It was a performance, a well-rehearsed play, and I was the unwitting and uncredited producer. The moment came during the toasts. James raised his glass, his voice thick with emotion, or perhaps just champagne. To my beautiful daughter, Emma, 16 years. It hasn't always been easy, but your mother and I, we've sacrificed, we've worked hard to give you the world you deserve. And you, my darling, you deserve it all. Applause rippled through the crowd. Emma, flushed with attention and champagne, beamed. Then her eyes landed on me, standing quietly in the back. A mischievous, almost cruel, glint entered her eyes. She detached herself from her friends and sauntered over, purse held high. Oh, Aunt Sarah, she said, her voice a little too loud, drawing the attention of those nearby. "You made it. Thanks for the bag, by the way." One of her friends, a girl with impossibly straight hair, piped up, "Wow, Emma, that purse is amazing." Emma snorted, a small, ugly sound. She looked directly at me, a smirk playing on her lips. "Oh, Aunt Sarah got it," she announced. "You know, she's only invited 'cause she pays for everything." A few people laughed nervously. Others looked away, suddenly fascinated by their shoes. The air crackled with awkwardness. I turned my eyes to James, my heart pounding, expecting him, willing him to step in, to defend me, to teach his daughter a lesson in gratitude and respect. Instead, he chuckled. He walked over, slapped my back with a force that felt more like a shove, and said, "Well, she knows her role, right, Sarah?" And that was it. The snap. It wasn't loud. It was a profound, internal stillness. The thumping music faded. The chatter dissolved into a dull roar. The glass in my hand felt impossibly heavy, the bubbles rising and bursting in slow motion. The years of resentment, the swallowed insults, the ignored sacrifices, they coalesced into a single point of icy clarity. They didn't just take me for granted, they despised me for my role. They saw my generosity not as love, but as weakness, a utility to be exploited. And they weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I didn't say a word. I raised my glass slightly, my lips forming a smile that felt brittle, like thin ice. It didn't reach my eyes. I held James's gaze for a beat, letting him see nothing, no anger, no hurt, just an unnerving, vacant calm. Then I looked at Emma, whose smirk faltered slightly under my empty gaze. I took a slow sip of my water and turned away. I stayed for another hour, a ghost moving through the celebration. I observed. I noted the casual way Trina boasted about their upcoming trip to Aspen. I heard James promising one of his friends a loan. Now that things are looking up, I saw the mountain of gifts, knowing I'd likely paid for half of them indirectly. And I saw them for what they were, users, performers, living in a house of cards I had built. When the music got louder and the dancing began, I slipped out unnoticed. I walked past the valets, past the gleaming cars, and got into my own modest sedan. The drive home wasn't a blur this time. It was sharp, focused. The fear was gone, replaced by something cold and hard. Back in my apartment, I didn't hesitate. I opened my laptop. The clicks were different now. Not a sigh of resignation, but the decisive sound of locks engaging. First, the joint account I'd foolishly kept open for emergencies, closed. Next, the online banking portal. Every automatic transfer, every pre-authorized payment linked to my accounts. Mortgage, canceled. SUV payment, canceled. Emma's tuition, canceled. Utilities, payment info removed. Netflix, Hulu, cell phone bills, all stopped. Then the emails. Polite, professional but firm. To the bank, please be advised that as of today, I am no longer contributing to mortgage payment. Account number. To the utility companies, please remove my payment information and name as a contact for address. To Emma's prestigious school, this email serves as formal notification that I will no longer be responsible for any tuition or fees associated with Emma. Last name. I logged into the family cloud storage, the one I set up for them, to back up photos. Password changed. Recovery email changed. Finally, I opened a spreadsheet I hadn't looked at in years, one where I'd obsessively, painfully tracked every dime. Rent, utilities, school fees, plane tickets, cell phones, grocery cards, Christmas gifts, emergency bailouts, down payments. 10 years. I formatted it neatly, added a total at the bottom. $257,432.18. I printed it. On another sheet, I wrote a single, clean sentence. This ends today. The bank is closed. I folded both, slipped them into a plain white envelope. It was 3 a.m. when I drove back to their house. The lights were off, the party long over. I still had a key. I let myself in quietly, the air thick with the stale smell of champagne and cake. I walked to the gleaming granite island in the kitchen, placed the envelope squarely in the middle, and then I placed my key beside it. I walked back out, locking the door behind me, and drove away as the first hint of gray lightened the eastern sky. My phone, which I had left on, began to buzz before I even hit the highway. I glanced at the screen, James, then Trina, then James again. I let it buzz. I let it sing its panic song all the way home, a soundtrack to my first day of freedom. The first 48 hours were a relentless siege. My phone became a vibrating, chiming testament to their dawning horror. I watched the caller ID flash, James, Trina, James, Mom, Trina, James, an angry, desperate drumbeat. I didn't answer. I let it all go to voicemail, a digital archive of their unraveling. The first few messages were laced with confusion and annoyance. James, hey Alex. Bit dramatic, don't you think? What's this note about? Call me. Trina, Sarah, the Netflix isn't working and my card got declined at the grocery store. Did you change something? This is very inconvenient. Then came the dawning realization. James again, his voice tighter. The mortgage payment didn't go through. What the hell did you do, Sarah? This isn't funny. You need to fix this now. Trina, her voice cracking, a practice quiver. Sarah, I don't understand. Emma's school called. They said the tuition. Sarah, how could you do this? Emma is devastated. You're destroying this family. And then my mother, Eleanor. Her voice was smooth, reasonable, the tone she always used when trying to smooth things over, which always meant getting me to capitulate. Sarah, sweetheart, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Your brother is under a lot of stress. You know how he is. We just need to sit down, all of us, and talk like a family. Don't punish everyone over one silly comment. You're better than that. You're better than that. It used to work. Now it just sounded hollow. I listened to them once, sitting in my quiet apartment, a mug of tea warming my hands. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about understanding or reconciliation. It was about reestablishing the flow of money. I blocked their numbers. For the first time, I felt a fragile sense of peace, a quiet space where their demands couldn't reach me. I called Chloe. I did it, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Good, she replied simply. Now hold on tight. The silence lasted less than a day. James, resourceful when cornered, found a way. He ambushed me in the parking garage of my office building. He looked ragged, his usual charm replaced by a desperate, wild-eyed look. Sarah, you can't just ignore us. You can't just walk away. Watch me, I said, my voice cold. This is insane, he yelled, grabbing my arm. I flinched away. After everything. After I trusted you. After you promised Dad you'd look after us. Remember that $50,000 I needed back then? You said you'd always be there. You owe me. And there it was. Twist number one. He wasn't talking about some small loan. He was talking about his share of our grandmother's inheritance. The money he'd blown through in 6 months on a ridiculous sports car and a sure-thing investment that vanished overnight. The money I had not only not touched, but had used to bail him out of the debt he'd accrued, starting this entire decade-long cycle. He wasn't just entitled. He was rewriting history, twisting his spectacular failure into my eternal obligation. I invested my share, James, I said, the words cutting through his bluster. You wasted yours. And I paid off your debts then, just like I've been paying them ever since. I don't owe you anything. It's the other way around. I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Not shame, but pure, unadulterated fury that his guilt trip hadn't worked. He stormed off, muttering threats. It shook me, but it also solidified my resolve. The last thread of guilt had snapped. But the worst was yet to come. A week later, a thick, official-looking envelope arrived. Certified mail. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was from a debt collection agency. It concerned the SUV, the one I'd co-signed for. James hadn't made a single payment. The loan was in default. And there, in bold, unforgiving letters, was my name, followed by the terrifying sum, $35,000. Co-signer liable. This was twist number 2. This was the betrayal that cut deeper than any insult. He hadn't just forgotten to refinance. He had intentionally left my name on that loan, a hidden anchor, a safety net he knew he could rely on. I sank onto my sofa, the paper clutched in my hand, the air rushing out of my lungs. I felt utterly foolish, naive, and trapped. For a moment, despair washed over me. Had I escaped anything at all, or would just rearrange the bars of my cage? This was my rock bottom. They still had a hold on me, a legal, financial noose I had willingly slipped my head into. I called Chloe, my voice thick with tears. He didn't take my name off the car, Chloe. They're coming after me. Her voice was firm, pulling me back from the edge. Okay, deep breath, Sarah. This isn't the end. This is war, and you need a general. Get a lawyer. Now. Her words jolted me. War. She was right. I wasn't going to crumble. I had fought my way out, and I wouldn't be dragged back in. I spent the afternoon researching, found a highly rated financial and family law attorney, Mr. Harrison, and scheduled a consultation. Walking into Mr. Harrison's office felt different. It was a proactive step, a move from defense to offense. He was a sharp, no-nonsense man in his 50s. I laid everything out. The 10 years of support, the printed list which made his eyebrows shoot up, the party, the note, the voicemails, and finally, the collection notice. He listened intently, occasionally nodding. You have quite a case here, Ms. Carter, he said when I finished. An excellent documentation. This co-signing situation is serious, but not insurmountable. We can demonstrate a pattern of financial reliance and potentially argue fraudulent inducement regarding that loan. But first, we fight the immediate fire. Then, we build a firewall. He outlined a plan. Contact the lender and collection agency. Issue cease and desist notices to James, and send a formal demand for James to assume the loan or face legal action. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of genuine power. Armed with legal backing, I agreed to meet James one last time. He requested it, his voice on the message, left via a friend's phone, uncharacteristically subdued. We met at a sterile, neutral cafe. He looked awful. The charm was gone, replaced by a hollow-eyed exhaustion. He tried pleading, talking about Emma, about Trina's nerves, about losing the house. I listened silently. When he finished, I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply slid Mr. Harrison's folder across the table. It contained the lawyer's letter, a copy of the collection notice, and a formal notice of my intent to pursue legal action if he didn't take responsibility for the car loan within 30 days. This isn't a negotiation, James, I said, my voice steady, unrecognizable even to myself. It's a notification. You created this mess. You will fix it, or Mr. Harrison will. I stood up. He stared at the folder as if it were a venomous snake, his face a mask of disbelief. The power dynamic hadn't just shifted. It had shattered and reformed, with me firmly in control. I walked out into the sunshine, feeling, for the first time, truly, irrevocably free. The road to untangling myself wasn't instantaneous. It was a landscape of paperwork, tense phone calls handled by Mr. Harrison, and the slow, grinding gears of the legal and financial systems. It took 3 long, stressful months and cost me more in legal fees than I care to admit, but every penny felt like an investment in my sanity. Mr. Harrison was brilliant. He negotiated with the car lender, presenting the evidence of James's long-term reliance and the circumstances of the co-signing. Faced with a potential lawsuit and bad press, and with James unable to produce a single cent, the lender eventually agreed to release me from liability, contingent on James surrendering the SUV. He did. The gleaming white symbol of their unearned status was repossessed. The house was next. Without my mortgage contributions, foreclosure proceedings began swiftly. They couldn't sell it fast enough, not with the market as it was and the state they'd likely kept it in. Within 6 months, James and Trina were forced to move into a cramped, 2-bedroom rental on the other side of town. The Sweet 16 Country Club was a distant, mocking memory. James, stripped of his charm and my cash flow, was forced to take a menial job at a local hardware store. I saw him once from my car, wearing an ill-fitting red vest, stacking bags of mulch. He didn't see me. I felt no triumph, no gloating, just a profound, quiet sadness for the brother he could have been, and an even deeper relief that I was no longer chained to his failures. My mother, Eleanor, made a few more attempts. Her calls were laced with a bewildered sadness, a complete inability to comprehend why I had abandoned them. But Sarah, she'd plead, they need you. No, Mom. I finally told her, my voice gentle but unyielding. They needed my money. I need my life. Then, unexpectedly, an email appeared. It was from Emma. The address was a standard public school domain. The subject line simply read, "Hi." My heart gave a lurch. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. The message was short, riddled with teenage awkwardness and misspellings, but devoid of the venom I remembered. "Hi, Aunt Sarah. Things are weird here. School is okay, I guess. Different. I got a job at the coffee shop after school. It sucks, lol. But listen, I wanted to say sorry. About the party. I was a stupid jerk. I didn't get it then. I kind of get it now, seeing how stuff is. It sucks now, but I kind of get it. Sorry I was a jerk. Hope you're okay." It wasn't a plea for money. It wasn't manipulative. It felt real. It was the first crack of genuine accountability I'd seen from any of them. I cried, not from guilt, but from a strange mix of sorrow and hope. Sorrow for the kid caught in her parents' toxic wake, and hope that maybe, just maybe, she could build something better for herself. I replied simply, "Thank you for your message, Emma. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. Focus on yourself. And keep drawing. I always loved your sketches. I wish you all the best." It was kind, but it was also a boundary, clear and clean. Aunt Carol, my mother's estranged but clear-eyed sister, had become an unexpected source of support. Hearing the truth, she'd become my fierce, if distant, defender, shutting down Eleanor's attempts to paint me as the villain within the wider family. Her occasional emails, full of dry wit and unwavering support, were a balm. As the months turned into a year, the silence from my immediate family became less a void and more a peaceful expanse. The constant hum of anxiety that had been my background noise for a decade faded away. I started noticing things again. The way the afternoon sun hit my living room wall. The taste of my morning coffee, no longer soured by impending financial demands. The sound of my own laughter, easy and unforced, during dinners with Chloe. I used the money I was no longer pouring into the black hole. I took a trip to Italy, something I'd dreamed of since college. I walked through Rome, ate pasta in Florence, stood by the canals in Venice, and felt light. I started a small side business, designing custom invitations for small, independent businesses, a passion project I'd never had the time or energy for before. I even started dating again, cautiously, learning to recognize the difference between genuine connection and opportunistic charm. My apartment, once just a place to sleep and work, became a true home. I painted the walls a warm, inviting color. I bought art I loved. I hosted small dinner parties for Chloe and a growing circle of friends, people who valued me, not my wallet. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about them. I'd feel a pang for the family I wished I had, for the niece I hoped would find her way. But the overwhelming feeling was one of peace, hard-won and precious. I learned that boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're lines drawn in the sand to protect your own sacred ground. I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, reciprocity, and love that doesn't come with an itemized bill. It took hitting rock bottom, staring at that collection notice, to realize I wasn't an ATM. I was a lifeline they were dragging under with them. But you can't be a lifeline for others if you let them drown you in the process. Sometimes, the bravest act of love isn't holding on tighter. It's letting go and learning to swim on your own toward a shore you choose for yourself. Finding your footing after shaking your world can be tough, but it's worth it. What was the first step you took towards reclaiming your peace? Share your strength below.